What if you haven't upgraded in a while and you're wondering, is there a good reason to? Well, stick around and we'll find out. Presented by Church Tech U, it's the ProPresenter Show. On today's show, my favorite new features from 2025. Hi, and welcome again to the ProPresenter Show. This is the show where, of course, I talk about ProPresenter. My name's Paul Allen Clifford. And before we get started, if there are any things that you'd like to see ProPresenter have, I don't necessarily have any sway, but go ahead, leave them below, and maybe from time to time I might mention them when I talk to Renewed Vision, and maybe they'll take that into account. Well, I don't know. Okay, so this is something that I've started doing the last few years, and that is kind of a retrospective episode where I talk about the new features from the previous year. And I actually went through and I recorded like 6 tutorials, and I did not pay attention to when the end of the year was amongst those. So I came back and I'm like, I better do that one. So without further ado, I thought that we would talk about my 6 favorite features. Well, not my 6, my 4 favorite features from 2025 as we're headed into 2026. There's the 6. Okay, so the first one was not in a brand new version, but in a point release, which is a little atypical, but not something that Renewed Vision has never done, and that is in 18.2, which was released on January 23, they added the ability to have not 8 screens, as was the case before, but 16. Now, I think that this is huge if you're using, maybe you've got a couple of stage screens, maybe you've got a couple of audience screens, maybe you've got one for live stream, etc. And before you know it, you've gotten up to your 8. And you have an idea for something to do with one more. Well, now you can do that as of January 23rd. So that's something that was great in January 23rd of 2025. Next, we had media cleanup. Now, when I say all these features, there are additional features. These are just my favorite 4. So with media cleanup, if we head over to ProPresenter here, you have the ability to, let's say that there's some stuff down here that you've added and you just don't use it, or you deleted the presentation that you added it for, etc. Well, now you could go into ProPresenter settings, and I think it's under media here, and you can clean up unlinked media. You click on that and it'll delete that all for you. So that was a great feature that they added back in April, end of April of 2025. Now, the next one is one that I have just, it's been something that's been very helpful to me personally, and I think that there wasn't the excitement for it that there should have been. I mean, some people were very excited about it, but others are like, yeah, that's not for my church. But I think it is, and that is workspaces. So if you go to General here, you can also get there by clicking on the status button here. We have the ability to do workspaces. So I think as a bare minimum, it's nice to have to use the workspaces and make a backup for yourself. So, just once a month, go here into Manage Workspaces and find the workspace that you're using, and then right-click on it and select Duplicate. And then give it basically the same name, but put a date on the end. And that way, if anything happens to the workspace that you're using, well, you can go back and use the previous workspace. Granted, you'll lose the work that you did in the however long since the last backup, but I would rather have only have to rebuild the last 3 or 4 weeks versus the last several years. So that's a powerful feature. I also think that it's really helpful for if you're moving your ProPresenter computer from one room to another. A lot of times you might have special events that happen in a certain room, and you don't want to redo everything, but you really want to have the computer that's powerful enough to run it. So that's another use case for workspaces. So that is my third favorite thing that they added in 2025. And then the last one, and I think that this one is monumental. In fact, when Renewed Vision told me about this when I went down to visit them, and it was game changing for me. Because I've been on a crusade. I don't mean that in any way. It's just, something fun that I've been trying to accomplish is to convince pastors not to use PowerPoint. But it was an uphill battle. And as it turns out, not everyone was of the opinion that they could even convince their pastor not to use PowerPoint. So, if we head back to ProPresenter, if you go to File, Import, and then PowerPoint as Presentation Beta, these other two choices are from previous versions, and they should still work. If they don't, you might need to upgrade to one of the point releases of ProPresenter 21, which is the one that added this. As I'm recording this, the current version of ProPresenter is ProPresenter 21.1. If you click on this, not only will it import objects and text like this says, but it also imports a couple of other things. It imports notes from PowerPoint. So if your pastor puts notes in the PowerPoint and is unhappy that those don't come in, well, they will. And also animations. Now, does every possible animation from ProPresenter or from PowerPoint come into ProPresenter? No, because there isn't an analog all the time. But if there is, then it will come in. So definitely some of the more normal ones, like a dissolve or a cut as it's moving through things, they will come in as builds in ProPresenter. And it also imports media like videos and still images, and the text is all editable. So all of that is great, and I think that it's revolutionary when it comes to ProPresenter. Something that a lot of people have wanted for a long time, and I'm glad that they finally added that. If you like this content, you would probably like my notes of my favorite features. So head on over to tdm.fyi/ProGifts, GIFTS, and then click on the appropriate button, tell me where to send it, and I will send you my notes of my favorite ProPresenter features for 2025. Until next time, this is Paul Allen Clifford from TrinityDigitalMedia.com and ChurchTechU.com, reminding you to go out and change eternity.